Make sure we are all on.
I don't see it on the page. Let me see.
Okay, it's up now.
It's up now. Let me refresh.
Alrighty.
Okay. It's up now.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on a very special Wednesday because I've been gone for about almost a month. I was really, really sick, and I definitely, needed a little bit of time to eat. So now I'm feeling much better. I'm in better spirits. So I figured why not try to come on here and end the series that I started in September. um so if you all were following us back then, you would know that we were talking about complications of sickle cell, right? There are so many complications. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there are videos right there on the Sickle Cell Experience page. But for now, this actual live will be talking about mental health and how we deal with those complications. Okay, mentally, how we persevere through, how we get through it, and how we stay, because honestly, you got to stay well, mentally well, more so than anything when you're dealing with this beast of the illness. Without further ado, I will introduce myself and then we could go down the line so I can start sharing. Hello, everybody. If you don't know who I am, I'm Shay Breon Howard. I am the co-founder and co-host of the Sickle Cell Experience Live. I am a writer. I am a filmmaker, photographer, all around creative being. And I'm also a mother of a beautiful 7-year-old sickle cell warrior. And I'm also the daughter of a sickle cell warrior who passed away when I was younger. Alrighty, that is who I am in a nutshell. I will pass it over to Miss Felicia and we'll go from there.
Hi, everybody. It's Mama Fifi, aka I'm also a certified sex coach, a sickle cell warrior, and an advocate. I am here to talk about mental fitness and mental well being for life. And I'm so glad that Shay Brown invited me to this series because it's very important. And I know firsthand about what having some issues mentally can be about. So I can't wait for us to have that discussion. Thank you. And so you
Ashley?
want me to pass it? Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
Hey everyone, Ashley, Sickle Cell Warrior, advocate. I do a lot of stuff, and I am excited to be here.
I guess I'll go next. Hi, everyone. I go by Trey Icart. I'm an artist, photographer. I have sickle beta thalassemia, and I do arts and crafts for the Sickle Cell Experience.
My name is Master Burt. I'm an artist from Chicago, Illinois. Parent and father of two, one daughter with sickle cell anemia. Yeah, that's about all.
All right. So I'm going to start this conversation. Sorry, I seem a little distracted. I am actually sharing this right now. But to start the conversation, let me refer to, and this is something we all don't have to answer. And I just want to make it clearly to everyone watching you we want you we encourage you to interact with us and comment. We appreciate it. We will interact back with you because this is an interactive conversation. I feel like this is not just something we can talk about in our own experience, but also bring your experience to the table as well and talk about that. If there's anything anyone is diagnosed with mentally, if they feel like talking about, this is, the floor. Or if you just feel like you never were diagnosed with something and you're like, I might be a little bit of, this or that, and I have these issues, that's fine too. Really, I just want to kind of open the floor to people and let them understand that having diagnosis or not does not mean, you know, something like you're just trash to be thrown away. Like, this is something people go through. This is something that people struggle with, especially with sickle cell. For myself, I struggle with depression and anxiety. Um, so I think I got a little bit of PTSD mixed up in there as well. But I was not diagnosed with PTSD, but when you go through what you go through, it's kind of hard not to be,
Traumatized.
you know. So I don't take anything for it, but
Can you we might mute our mics if we're not talking because the noise in the background.
okay, everybody would have to, let me see if I can mute everyone. Everybody would have to mute their own mic if they're not talking. It's easy. You just the controls at the bottom. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's my personal story. The depression stems from losing my parents at a young age. That will definitely depress you. And it is something that I struggled with up until my late 20s. I got a hold on it because I started talking about it and I started letting people know, you know, you take away the power when you stop struggling and suffering in silence. Um, and I think it really did help me. It really did make a change when I was able to verbalize the things that I was feeling inside and internally, because I kind of felt like, well, what does it matter? I don't want people to take pity on me. But no, it's not about pity at all. It's truly about speaking your truth and how you feel, and letting people know, especially people close to you, know, hey, I'm struggling right now. This is a problem. It's a bad day. I know I've called Tracy before. I'm having a bad day or a bad moment, and I
And
just
vice
need,
versa.
right. I just need a little bit of sunshine. And when you have friends like that you can call on, and you can say, you know what, whew, all right, I'm good now. Thank you. That's a blessing because whew, it's not even kind of, it is powerful. It is to feel heard and to feel like someone cares enough to try to change the moment of, oh my gosh, I don't want to have a bad moment that's going to turn into more misery and more pain, and it's going to make me fall into this abyss of darkness, pretty much. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit about my story. I'll let someone else speak because I have so much more to give on this topic, but I don't want to be the only one talking because this is a panel. So feel free to free fall. I don't, anybody want to add to what I said or speak about their own experience, feel
I'll
free.
cover Vanessa Rose. She wrote, I'm a caregiver. I think we all have PTSD. Some of the craziness that happens in the hospital is unbelievable. And so that is so true. I mean, besides life experience itself, besides finding out when you were diagnosed with sickle cell disease, I mean, then having to live your life as a person and then define yourself who you are, like with this disease, because we're not our disease, we're more than that. When society tried to pigeonhole, people who have any type of disease, and we're more than that. We are human beings who are having experiences with sickle cell disease. And there's various types. It affects us in various ways. We're all different and how we deal with it. So it can affect you mentally. I know growing up, I got teased and talked about, and because of my eyes, like, "Ooh, are you contagious?" and all this different stuff that they used to do. And I'm pretty sure people today are still battling and dealing with that. And also because of the social implication living here in the United States and have to deal with uh, systemic racism, um, things of that nature. When you go to the hospital, we already have a history of being abused and being neglected in terms of health care. And now here you are, at first having this thing, they used to be a black disease, but it's not a black disease, more other nationalities have it as well. And it might be predominantly dealing with the African American community, but it's not a black disease. And so you go through that. And then, I really had a conversation with a physician once because he used to work in a Detroit, was it Detroit? I think he said. I think it was Detroit or either Washington D.C. One of them. That's very two distinct places, but where the population of Black people were high, and he literally admitted that when they would deal with certain people who had sickle cell disease, they looked at what was that person doing as far as their quality of life. If it was a person who came in there who didn't have anything going on for their life, maybe was in the system, things of that nature, didn't have a high education or anything of that nature, they did pigeonhole that that client and decline a quality of care. But if you were had some activity, maybe in school, working, doing some things to better yourself, then they treated you different. And I was like, I told them I've been on both sides of the fence. Now I'm working on my doctorate. And I said, I've been on both sides of the fence where I wasn't doing anything in the system to now working and doing something. I said, on both sides of this fence, I still feel like as a human being, I deserve a quality of care. I don't care what I'm doing in my life. And so it pisses you off to be in these systems and the way that they treat you, you know. And one other thing with dealing with the hospitals, when I went to a seminar that Pat, not Pat Corley, but I get Dr. Raleigh put on one day at one of the universities here in California. One of the speakers was talking about they used to give children shots, the children with sickle cell, they will give the children shots because they thought by giving a child a shot, they will stop asking for the pain medication. In that moment, because I could remember when I was young, we used to always have to press the button to call the nurse to get our shot into muscle for the pain medicine. And to think at that age, innocent, that's why they were giving us shots. I just started crying because I just thought that was so cruel to live in the era where I
Mhm.
actually experienced that they were doing that with a purpose to encourage us to not ask for the pain medication. And that just made me think they don't understand pain is pain. We're going to ask for the shot, whether a shot, IV, whatever. Why? Because we need it in those moments. And to formulate an idea that if, because I guess they think all kids are afraid of shots. This was going to encourage the child not to ask because you have some sort of warped ideal about this child who needs care. I mean, that hurt my feelings, and I just cried at that seminar because to learn that it had a reason. It is easy. So it messes with your mental state of mind, that because it's like you wonder, you internalize, like, don't you care for me? Aren't worth caring for? It's like, this is serious. This is my life. So I can understand how growing up we can all have some sort of issue. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
Okay, before anyone else speaks, we just want to give Dorian the chance to introduce himself because he came a little late in the game, and we all want to know who we're, talking to here. So, Dorian, without, just go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Good evening, everyone. My deepest apologies for my tardiness. Battling LA traffic, I thought I could get to one location, and as LA traffic will do to you, you never know what to expect. So my half-hour journey turned into almost an hour and 15 minutes. So my apologies on that note. My name is Dorian Archie. I'm a sickle cell patient, sickle cell SS. I'm also an advocate, actor here in Los Angeles, California as well. Graduate of Howard University, community organizer, all those things. Happy to be here. Shabrian, thank you for hosting this and for inviting me to be here. And it's been great listening in to you guys talk.
Thank you for joining us. And just so everyone know, again, this is a safe space. Feel free to interact with us because I intend for us to really, dive a little deep. Is there anyone else who want to talk? Say anything to say at all about, dealing with sickle cell and mental health? Anything? We'll
Um,
go.
okay, I'm sorry. There's a car going off. You might be able to hear it. I would just say, from going to the hospital, and your life stopping, I think can be very depressing. Um, I would say PTSD for sure. Um, yeah, it's just challenging. And the roller coaster, of feelings that you have to go through and just constantly, working your mind and your body, and at the same time trying to reserve your energy and do as much as you can while you feel good, it becomes stressful, you know. And you just kind of have to, I guess, play with it and just work with it and try to go with the flow as much as you can. But again, I always say try to be compassionate with yourself during those downtimes, because that's the only way to recover and not be so hard on yourself. But still find the strength to keep going every day that you feel well enough to do so.
Absolutely. Ashley, anything you want to say? Or huh? You're muted, I think. Ashley, I see your lips moving, but I can't hear anything. Does anyone else hear her?
I don't see her moving either.
Well, she was talking. I don't know what happened. I think she froze.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but you're. I mean, I guess as long as we can hear you, I guess it's okay. No, we can't.
I guess, fellas, in the meantime, while we get her back in here, do either of you want to add? What was the initial question, Shay? Can you repeat the initial question?
Okay, there we go.
The initial.
Is she back?
Can you hear me now?
Are you back?
Okay,
There
Yeah.
we go. Okay, we're good.
hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
And then, yeah, here personally, uh, I get a lot. Ever since I was young, I've been in and out the hospital, not only due to sickle cell, but other health problems. So yeah, it's been times when I've been really depressed. And I'd have to say my worst was when I was in a nursing home. Since from 2020, that was the worst time of my life. That was my lowest point. Um, just had to deal with in there. Um, from guys coming in my room, just perverts to the that's all in there. And then not being able to go home. And then being having to go to rehab and how to walk and do everything all over again. So yeah, I have been really depressed before, and they wanted to put me on. I've tried, especially when I was younger, but help or some even made it worse. So I just stopped taking them. Um, and I had to say through it, God is what brought me out of it every time. Like my faith in Him through everything, it and growing with Him, getting closer to Him is why I'm still here today. So I don't really have it now. I would have to say probably last year, no, the beginning of the year when I was in rehab. Now, um, better, not in hospital. But yeah, you should just have someone that you could really trust to talk, help you come out of that state of mind, and just help you through it. Because a lot of people like support like that, especially family. But having that, it helps.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'll let
I
someone
truly.
else talk now. I could go on.
All right. So we got the men here. Yeah. You know.
What was the question?
The question was, are you diagnosed with anything or on any medication? Is that me? um, what is
I
that?
think
Was that
somebody
me?
needs to mute. I think somebody needs to mute.
Anybody else know how to feedback?
Uh, okay. So I will repeat the question. Yeah, somebody just needed to mute. I repeat the question, and I will make it a three-parter so that we can just continue to talk. Um, if there is any diagnosis with any mental health issues, or if you just feel like you've been going on undiagnosed, what you've gone through and experienced, um, are you seeing any sort of mental health professional or taking any medications? And also, we'll add, how do you mentally adjust and or deal with having sickle cell mentally? Yeah, you know. So, Master, I guess that's for you because Dorian got booted.
Um, nah, I don't feel like I. Well, first off, I say what I was diagnosed with, like PTSD, but I don't feel like that had nothing to do with sickle. Well, it ain't even that I don't feel like it. I know it don't have nothing to do with sickle cell. She was talking about stuff from like the way that I raised my kids versus how I was brought up. Um, as far as sickle cell, like mental health and sickle cell, probably dealing with my daughter more than anything. Uh, it's tough to like see your child a certain way and you can't do nothing about it. That's one thing that sometimes like sometimes like when like when she go through stuff. Man, it break me sometimes. You know what I mean? Like it definitely break me sometimes to a point where I had to separate like from like I had to just go off in the corner and do what I do. Like that's probably the only thing I think that ever really like bothered me. Stuff as far as I'm concerned, I just always took it like it is what it is. Like uh yeah, I always took it like it is what it is. Stuff as far as I go. Let me see. A big, you know what's a big thing? It's like also like people don't, just like people not understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like being a guy uh in the dating world, once something that people don't understand is like how you almost harden. But then another thing is just like people don't understand the normal people don't understand like because I don't complain, that don't mean ain't nothing going on. You know what I mean? Like because I live a particular way, meaning like even if I'm, let's say if my pain is up to 5, like I don't really complain about it. I still just do. And then because like I joke a lot, you know what I mean? People can't never really tell what's going on. Uh so people tend to think they tend to people often associate what I'm trying not to do. So my 5 don't go into 7, 8, 9, 10. What I try not to do with laziness or something like that. People tend to do that too. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that's like big when you're dealing with people that just don't understand. Um, I handle mine differently than people handle theirs. I feel like this. I feel like everybody here probably would say stress is the number one thing that put them into crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So if stress is the number one thing that put you into crisis, if anybody like me and Shay have conversations or whatever, people see I kind of like analyze everything, right? So I feel like if stress is the number one thing that puts you into crisis, like what's the best way to alleviate stress? Well, you're not just gonna be antisocial to everybody. You're gonna be sociable, but at the same time, you just gotta like harden up. You know what I'm saying? So some stuff where other people might cry over, I'm just like, oh. Some stuff where other people might, feel some type of way about, I just be like, oh. And so sometimes I feel like you have to take a lot of feelings out of things so you don't end up messed up. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how I cope. That's how I deal with stuff. It's helped me this far. I ain't been in the hospital in like 3 years, so it's helped me this far. So it works for me.
And do you think in the long run it will be helpful, or are you someone who's open to like maybe therapy or like um
I already been to that.
okay.
I already been there. So due to like childhood, like I had a dope grandfather. Let me say that first. So that ain't had nothing to him. But like due to like when people leave, when people like leave your life, you know what I mean. When close people, I don't want to say like ain't just random people. Like when close people leave your life, it just make it easier. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, it just make it easier. It just make it easier for even like that within the community. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, for some people, like I see people might cry. You know what I'm saying? I don't know when the last time I did that. So for me, it's more so a thing of when people pass away, it just be like then like of course I be hurt, of course. You know what I'm saying? Especially when I be close to them, but it don't be nothing that I like cry about for real. I'm saying like. I don't be how other people be. This ain't to say that they wrong, but my thought of it is just like they not suffering no more. So I ain't, you know what I'm saying? Like I ain't crying because I'm super tough. I ain't crying. I'm not crying because of that. I'm not crying because I feel like they better now. Saying
Right.
like I just look at death differently than other people.
Got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think also you're using it as a coping mechanism to protect yourself from going into crisis because you're talking about stress,
Yeah.
how stress
yeah,
can cause a trigger a crisis way to deal with your stress. And I just want to say that, make sure you're not stuffing though, because if you have to
make
face
sure you're not
everything,
who.
stuffing,
I didn't
stuffing
hear
your
you. Stuffing.
stuffing your
Oh, so my
feelings.
brother talked to me about that a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my brother talked to me about that a lot. Like he talked to me about like build like you let he feel like I let too much stuff build up. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
But
because that's
um
dangerous too.
Mm-hmm.
I just take it like it is what it is. Like it's just like I feel like once you can put it is what it is in like in your life and really like mean it,
Yeah,
it almost become easier.
and that's true. And I'm glad that you find a perspective where it becomes clear to you, because the healing is in understanding the situation instead of stuffing it and letting things build, because that hurts us internally as well, and it can cause other things to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dorian,
But that's just how I deal with it though.
do you want to answer anything before? Because I want to kind of switch lanes a little bit, but I want to give you a chance to talk. Give your answers before. Well, he left again. Uh, he'll be
Okay,
back though.
before you move on, let's address some of these things
I
like
got a question too, Trayvon.
Yeah, I had a question too. I had a question
okay.
Okay,
too.
feel free.
So
This is
I got a question for everyone.
okay, Carolyn
Okay,
Cobb,
so do you guys think
Cecile. I'm sorry.
oh.
I was gonna ask you guys that trauma, like if you have like a few like traumas in your life that could cause depression.
Oh yeah, definitely. There is definitely times I have barely scratched the surface, okay, and I went deep by saying about my parents, but I barely scratched the surface of trauma that's caused depression and issues. That's something that, you know, it's a personally you have to know how to decipher, and deal with that. You can't just kind of I almost called you Mama Fifi, but Mama Fifi said, you can't stuff it. You got to deal with it. You got to face it the best way you know how. Because when you try to hide from it or run from it or pretend like it didn't happen or it's not affecting you, it definitely can cause depression. Okay. That's just my answer. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Uh,
I mean, it's the result of it's when you are having some sort of diagnosis, it is the appropriate reaction to something that has happened. So it is the result of something happening. And so that's why therapists or sex coaches or coaches like myself, when we deal with our client, we try to get to the root cause. Because if you get to the root cause, then that's when you can put an action plan together to start practicing some skills that will help you to do things differently, to think differently, to behave differently, so that you can have and design the quality of life that you would like to have. And so the diagnosis is only to, it's a guide. It's a thing that says, okay, this is what's going on now. but it comes from something. It just don't, a diagnosis just don't show up, you know, in the mental health field. It comes as a result of something.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Uh,
need to do.
did you go?
Huh?
Okay.
You can make an appointment with me anytime.
I was just gonna
Okay,
speak my
I
piece
will.
on Ashley's question. I think that I have,
Uh huh.
after trauma, just feeling like I was a different person, and trying to, I don't know, like reinvent myself. I know that I've been depressed, like,
Me.
and have gone like deep where I don't want to talk to anybody, to where people are coming looking for me and I just don't care, and it's really like a cloud hanging over my head, And I think I've dealt with depression not only like from sickle cell, but just life and having like heavy expectations on myself. Quarter life crisis when I was 25 and it went away. I've had post travel depression where I was traveling all the time and then I stopped completely and I just didn't have the same feeling and that same, I guess, regular stimulation or daily stimulation from something new. And finding my way, and just different stages of life and trying to refigure things out. I would say I'm starting to see, like, now that I'm more open with who I am, I'm a person who wears my heart on my sleeve and I do need to toughen up. I'm very expressive, very open, and I kind of find that I need to reel it back and put a bubble around myself to protect myself. Um, and so I've been, very hard, and ice cold in the past. And it's like I've tried to come out of that and find my balance in life, to where I'm happy. Like I haven't been depressed in a really long time. Um, I've done things, I make sure I take care of myself, like taking a bubble bath or, taking myself out to do something new or whatever, something that I enjoy for myself. But knowing what depression feels like and knowing how to navigate out of that. So,
And I just want to kind of add to
Yeah.
just a little bit. It's a little on the subject because like some people may think I'm really tough with my daughter sometimes. Just the way we interact or the way you know I am a very straight to the point type of person. I don't really dance around things, and I try to most kids they like you need to be soft sometimes, but I was watching Red Table Talk one day, and they were talking about how black mothers are so hard on their black girls because we're trying to get them ready for this world that just does not love or respect them. And in trying to do that, sometimes we do a little more harm than good because then we're just trying to toughen our kid up, right? Like just trying to get a little hard shell around you just to come. So when you hear it out in the street or when you deal with somebody who's kind of hard to talk to in the street, you're like, piece of cake, right? And not all people respond or are receptive to that sort of, treatment or just talking. Not saying I treat her bad, just saying, I just want her to be ready for the world. And sometimes I feel like it's putting trauma, you know what I mean, in places where she shouldn't have to deal with it, which is a safe place with me. And it's like so I walk a fine line because I really do want her to, I don't want her to go to the world and be like my mom was just this great marshmallow to my life. She was so soft and gentle with me. So the moment someone gives her a paper cut, she's bleeding all over the place. That's my analogy for things. And I think in turn it kind of like it traumatizes me, because I'm here like, I don't. It's an internal thing that because I watched it and I recognized what they were talking about. So I saw, mothers and daughters, black mothers and daughters having those conversations when the kid has grown up, and just saying like, no, I was never trying to be mean to you. And that's why I find myself asking my daughter, like, do you think I'm trying to be mean to you? Do you think I'm mean? Do you think I'm treating you badly? And she's like, no, because I don't ever want her to feel that way. So I don't know, for some
Mm-hmm.
reason,
It's a
that
fine,
moment.
it's a fine, yeah,
Shay,
it's a
I
This
went
fine
through
line.
that with my mother. I went through that a few years ago. I'm gonna make this real quick. My mom, she was kind of hard on me, like she had these high expectations. My mom can do everything. And me, I'm a free spirit. So one time I had to sit down with her and tell her, like, listen, mom, I'm not trying to be you. I love you. You are amazing. I just want to be me. But she's like, all I've ever known is how to take care of people. And I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
make sure you're going to be okay. But once we had that understanding, like, we're cool. We're so cool. But, but she's hard on everybody, to be honest. Like, and that's really how she is, because everyone looks at her like she's that lady, like she can do everything. And it's like, I just want to be me. Like, let me just fall back. Like, I don't have to be that great all the time.
Right. Well, there is things called generational trauma, and sometimes as a parent, because I'm a parent, I have a 35-year-old son, and as a parent, we want our children to be better than us, and so we try to live vicariously through them and just try to make sure you guys have everything you need to be successful. But sometimes we could just be so hard because why? Hurt people. If we're
Mhm.
traumatized and hurt and been hurt and we come up with some way to adapt and navigate through life, we're just going to use the best tools that we have. But I call that old data, because that
Yeah,
old data does not work, like you said, Shay Brown, for all people and all children. And so you have to meet the child. We as parents have to meet the child where they are at. And we have
yeah,
to be open and do away with these harsh realities of, I'm the parent, do as I say, not as I do kind of a ruling. And so, and all of that, and I can get into all that history, but we ain't on that show, but, about, the traumas of slavery and how, we
yeah,
have some of those adaptive things now. And the only way we can change it is to become, aware of it and make that change. But sometimes, some of us think, well, look at me, I'm all right, but we don't know how to be in relationship. We don't know how to be financially sound. There's other things in our life that's so jacked up, but we think we fine and they don't have anything to do with our past, and that's just not the reality. But until a person chooses to wake up and deal with it, then we can begin to be better people. And that's what you were talking about. I'm sorry, the one who was just speaking. I'm not familiar with all you names. Um,
Ashley.
Tracy.
Tracy, you just talked about self care. Self care is very important. And you talked about also knowing who you are. And that's what I do as a sex coach. I help people to identify and understand how they could become their true authentic selves. And that's where it is. Once you do that, then you can face anything.
Absolutely. Um, I just want to kind of go on to how we deal
Oh my
with.
gosh. I had a sex thought. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at what you said, just so you know. Like,
Um,
No, I just thought something came to you or somebody texted you or something. I didn't know what that was about.
how do
No
we cope?
problem.
I know Master talked about him just kind of letting things go pretty much. Coping, I think, is a big thing with dealing with sickle cell and complications, right? How I know for myself, I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of writing, I have been writing since my mom died when I was 7. That is my number one self care ritual that I will take. If I've done 25 things in a day, I will take at least an hour out of my day to write or read something, especially something that I've wrote or written that I'm trying to, edit or whatever. Um, that's something very close to me, and I'm able to process things mentally through writing. So if I feel like there's turmoil that I'm going through with a person or relationship, or I write I write it out. I write a letter. I don't have to give the person that letter. Um, but I make sure I write a letter so that it's not just kind of stuck there and I'm not dealing with it or doing anything with it. Um, I was doing self care Sundays. I need to get back to it. I got sick. So, facials, pedicures, manicures, um, the whole nine. Also, like doing my makeup is calming. To do my makeup, it helps calm my fiery spirit.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
um, yeah, let's see.
And what
And
about in the moment when you're in pain, when you're in the hospital, and uh, the pain seems all too overwhelming, and you
I,
don't have access to your writing tools, your makeup, your this, your that.
it,
What are some ways you think a person can cope or find tools to help them address dealing with it in the moment?
okay, I'm gonna be a totally 100% like with people. When I feel like it's up to here and I don't know how to process it anywhere or I don't have the tools to process it, I cry. I don't like crying, but I just cry to get it out. I don't cry to keep it in because there's two different crying. There's crying to keep it in and to try to hold on to it. I know y'all
Hmm.
know what I'm talking about. I ain't talking to
Yeah, I
myself.
think
Some of y'all
we
understand
all
me.
cry,
And then
have
it's
cried.
cry to let it out. You have to push it out because you got to just kind of like I ain't gonna lie. I was in the hospital 2 times in
Tears are
less than a month,
healing.
and the second visit was hard because I away from my child. Um, she wasn't having it mentally. She was going through her thing because she was missing me and her anxiety and her wanting me to be home and being afraid
Trey, I
for
think
me.
you're breaking up.
Can you hear me?
I
Let me
can.
know.
Breaking up.
Okay. Okay. um.
You're back now.
Maybe.
I'm like,
Okay. I was really like I was going through something and I cried. I was talking to my nurse and I just was like, I hate crying because I do. But if it gets there, I just have a good cry, let it out, take some nice deep breaths, and, you know, just kind of try to process it and place my life where I need to place it. I know it sounds weird, but it just, you know,
I think for a lot of us, especially why to doctors and nurses, we may seem so angry or despondent or all of these other things when we come to the ERs because so many of us haven't been given like the proper tools on how to process or deal with or cope with um, being in that place over and over and over again.
mm-hmm.
So it becomes anger, or we displace it, or it turns into anger. Um, and
I hate the hospital.
the horrific thing about that is that in turn then creates more stress, like Master was talking about, and then in turn creates more pain. And then you just kind of end up in a vicious cycle that kind of just eats you alive. And I think, I know you and I were talking about this earlier, Shabrian, when you can get caught in that, it becomes very easy for somebody who's chronically ill to just give up. And
Yeah.
that's why I think, this is such a great question and topic to talk about, finding those coping mechanisms and
Yeah.
how we can better address dealing with the cycle of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is going to be a cycle, and understanding that it's going to be a cycle, I think is, extremely important as well. Because I know for me, it was like a shock to my system when I kind of was like, I got it in my mind from pediatrics to adult care that somehow that this wasn't going to get worse, or that this was the worst it was ever going to be, or something like that. And then it was like, oh no, this is the rest of your life. And I didn't know how to cope with that at the time, and I handled it really, really badly. And I wished, somebody was having these conversations back then, around how to do that, because I didn't have the tools.
But that's
Um,
okay. I mean, you should not feel bad. That's a part of the experience, you know.
exactly.
Like forgive yourself for that. But I would
Oh,
like
oh,
to,
absolutely. That
Give
was that
yourself
was the
the
whole process,
grace.
from
right,
there to now, in going through the experience and the process, and finding those tools, whatever they were outside of just being sick, whether it was advocacy or drawing, or just watching a movie or something, and just trying to find that distraction away from the pain.
Mm-hmm.
It was an entire process from there, and I had to reshape and reform how I looked at my life, how I looked at this illness in my life, how I looked at a number of things, so that I could cope with the fact that I was going to have to live with this, for the rest of my life, or until there was, a miracle of science and it was cured. Um, but that was the most difficult thing, I think, for me to come to terms with. Like, wow, I'm about
for
to
the
have to do
rest of
this
my
for the rest
life.
of my life.
Right.
You know,
That's how I felt when I was prescribed folic acid, and they was like, "You have to take this for the rest of your life." Can you imagine taking something for the rest of your life? You know what I mean? It's like that concept. But to answer,
especially something like a narcotic, like a opioid or
right,
something like that, being
right,
told you're going to be on morphine or Dilaudid or some heavy narcotic for probably the rest of your life,
right,
in some form or fashion.
right,
That
Mm-hmm.
is, a very, daunting thing to stare down as well.
right. And to answer your question for me about coping mechanism, I use, singing. I love crying because I know crying is healing. I use breathing techniques because our bodies hold memory in the cell. And so, with the breathing technique, I will focus and hone in on where the pain is and just allow the oxygen to build up in those areas and then release all the dark pain and whatever it is that it could be associated with. And also, I learned that all pain is not sickle cell pain. And when you realize that and you can differentiate the pains that you go through, we have psychological pain, we have physical pain, we have sickle cell pain, and all, the pain medicine is not going to take care of all those types of pain. So you have to really understand what kind of pain you're going through too, so that you can get the appropriate help. And also to touch on the point about dealing with people in the hospital, I have finally learned that I am. Somebody please mute themselves. Um, I am the most important person there when I'm in the hospital, and I have learned that the people that I deal with that don't understand, that really truly don't understand and not aware of what they're doing, I don't internalize it. I don't take it personal anymore because that's too much for me to bear, like it was before when I didn't understand and I took it personal and it made me worse and I would be in more pain because I want people to care. I can't make people care. That's something that they already have to have. So I relinquish that. So when I go in being informed about why I'm there. I'm informed about what I want the doctors to particularly be focused on. And I pay attention to my mission and to accomplish my goals of the kind of services and help that I need. And then I'll rally together all the people who understand to get that done. And so
Yeah.
that takes off the pressure too, because thinking that you're going to go into an establishment and these people are already going to know how to treat you is a setup for failure. It's
Yeah.
just more stress. It's just not like that. You have to understand that, you know, somebody is going to mess up along the way and almost kill you. So you have to be an advocate and understand no, how to say no, how to talk to them, and not just take their word for it because they the authority and it's supposed to be the doctors and nurses. And no, that's why we're advocates. You have to have a voice and know how to speak for yourself and know how to get them to understand, because I'm in a situation right now where I'm on temporary dialysis. You know, most people don't know that. But I'm on temporary dialysis. I've gotten cut down from 3 days to 2 days because my kidneys are functioning. But here's the ticket. This is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like dialysis is not good for me because one is lowering my blood count more than usual, and now it's making me having to have more blood transfusions that I didn't have to have. And so I'm advocating to see a specialist because, you know, we have to work within our norms with our hemoglobin because our hemoglobin is low. It's never going to be high. And so with that, it is going to cause other complications. So I'm trying to get them to understand what is my norm dealing with my type of hemoglobin, and is this necessary? You know, and have them think that way instead of thinking, no, your numbers are high here, so this is what we have to do. No, my numbers could be high, but that could be my norm, and I could still be functioning fine. You know, so you know, it's just things that you have to be able to talk about, have them investigate, and until you're proven otherwise. So I think that's one of the key. If we have our voices, we practice, you know, breathing, staying calm, and not internalizing what some of these people do. That can also take off a lot of stress while we're going through these painful episodes.
Okay, what you're saying was absolutely, I
It's a
totally
question.
understand. It was the truth, 100%. So thank you for giving, your personal account. We have questions though. I don't know.
Gabriel, yeah, Olympia,
Uh,
how do you deal with using your coping mechanisms and then being judged for them, which causes more stress?
Girl, don't care about what other
Coping
people think.
mechanisms, like sometimes talking on the phone, just any type of distractions. But for me, like I've had doctors tell me or nurses tell doctor and say, "Oh, she's on the phone. She's fine. How could she be in pain if she's on the phone?" Like really, but I just ignore them. And I talk to the doctor, whoever it is, and tell them, "No, that's how I take my mind off of the pain, or different things like that.
it's funny because they're the
They
ones that gave us
stress
those
me out.
coping mechanisms. When you think about it, when we're kids, what do they have? They have the playroom, or they have, you could bring the video games or the dolls or the whatever into your room and distract yourself. So what do you do when you're an adult? You distract yourself. Is that not the coping mechanism that they gave us?
Mm-hmm.
Am I missing something? Because how can you judge for something that you given us? You gave us these coping mechanisms. When you think
Well,
about
they
it,
don't look at it that way, because there's no crossover between pediatric medicine and
there's
adult
no
medicine.
bridge, right?
Exactly. And because that bridge isn't
But
there,
that's yeah,
exactly.
But the thing is, the word judge, being judged,
right. It would
or
imply that you have
using.
to care. Yeah,
But my point is, who give a damn what somebody else think? Is it helping you? Why you care that somebody judging you? Boy,
Well, if that doctor has the power, if that doctor that has the power to turn your medicine off, to decrease this, decrease that, to make your hospitalization potentially more horrific or even deadly, um, that's something that I know I've had to weigh several times in the hospital. How much pushback am I about to give? How much of a care am I not about to take in this doctor's opinion or ego or power or any number of things that he can influence because of his position. So
and that's why
um,
the hospitals have systems. That's why they have social workers. They have people higher up that you can get in contact with to share your concerns with them. And then they are the ones that know how to go down the chain of command to get the problem solved. That's another thing. We need to know how to navigate the system of these hospitals. Like we are all assigned a caseworker when we are in, and you can ask to speak to that caseworker. We all have privilege to a psychologist or a psychologist. We can ask for them as well. We don't have to go at this alone in the hospital system. We can address our concerns with the system within the system itself.
Mm-hmm.
And the system itself is supposed to be there to support you. Sometimes we don't know we have access to those resources. Sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. And so that's why I'm glad we having these conversations, because I know about resources, and you have to use your resources, and you should not ever feel intimidated that a physician or a nurse has the power to do something to you that could be detrimental. It is your right. It is your right to know your rights and how to navigate the system.
Like even with as we were talking about resources, it reminded me. I totally forgot about this, but I was in the hospital and I happened to ask for resources for my daughter because she has a hard time coping with me being in the hospital sometimes, and seeing if there's any type of therapy, whatever something she can navigate to. And the social worker came, and really she didn't just come and drop off the resources but she also stayed with me, and she had a conversation, and she listened to how I was feeling about it, because I had to deal with having my daughter, like I said, she didn't take the second visit very well. So that was me having to deal with that emotionally as well. So the social worker in the hospital, she said, and I'm pretty sure it was long after her time she had to clock out. She was there, and we had conversations. I told her about being triggered in the hospital just with things people say, like my assistant, the people that assist you, he came in for like the third day helping me. He's like, "Oh, you're still here." But like the way he said it triggered, like I I'm still here. I don't want to be here. I shouldn't still be here. And in him just saying that, it was just like cringy. It triggered me. And so I was able to like verbalize that and have a conversation with her, and even tell her about things that triggers me, what people say. Like if she was talking about having a cold, they compare. Literally had, when I was in my dean told me, what is sickle cell, like when you have a cold or something. So having all these right. So all these things, that triggers me, or that reminds me of trauma or traumatic situations that I've had. I was able to actually have a conversation with her, and really talk about it and process it. And then we did it in a way that was fun and healthy. It was like a conversation, and we talked about cooking, because I like to cook, and talked about Nyla cooking, and it was just a great. She took me out of my head, you know, and
Right
that's a
there. Out of
resource.
your head. Exactly. right there. That's the
That's
point
a
right there.
resource that you have. You know.
Sometimes we have a lot of negative self thought talking in our heads, and it's just right there, and it's not real. And that's what we have to be aware and careful of as well. Sometimes we can have and this little sucker voice saying nobody cared for me, everybody else is more important to me than me. And we can have all these little negative thoughts going on that we are operating on because of our own trauma and our own self-awareness about ourselves, and we're being triggered that we now are projecting, and we have to take responsibility of that and to make sure that we're not projecting on others like they're not going to care for me, right? Like we can already be internalizing that and saying that, and then guess what? We meet that out in our present because we're already predicting that. And you have to be careful with that as well. And the only way you can get through that part of it is by being honest with yourself and calming yourself down to ask yourself some questions. Is this what really is happening? Or am I internalizing this as this happening? And then differentiate the two, and then really be honest with yourself, like, okay, this is me doing this. Let me calm down and readdress this another way. And so it'll help us. It'll also, bring that stress level down as well.
Okay, great.
There's resources, but I don't trust the doctors, especially the psychiatrists and the psychologists in the like. I just don't. They try to get me to see one. I won't. I'll go outside the hospital, but as far as like in the hospital, I just don't trust them.
Why is that? Why is that? See, because that's an internal thought that you don't even know is true. Why? What is it?
No,
that
it's not
gives you
internal. It's the things that how I've been treated, what lies been put in my chart, my records, other people told me, doctors. So I just won't do it. I've tried it. I've tried to do it, and I've actually like been, but then it didn't work out. I don't know.
So oftentimes the
And it's
system is set up
supposed to be
to
like
protect the
confidentiality,
system.
but yeah, so,
I'm sorry, repeat that again, because both of you were talking at the same time. You were saying the young lady, I'm sorry, who was speaking about the psychiatrists and psychologists that you won't see in the hospital.
yeah, when you were saying about resources in the hospital, like social workers, stuff like that. But I'm saying, like, doctors refer you. They'll have them come in the room when you're in there, thinking you need to see one, or especially if you have that. But I'm just saying, like, my personal experience, I won't talk to one anymore because I just don't trust them. Just things that have happened. But that's just me. That's personally just me.
That's fine. I was just trying to understand.
No, not like that.
Oh, Pat is dope.
You mean Pat Corley? Pat or some other Pat?
No, we're talking about.
He's talking about.
She goes to the University of Chicago.
No, he's talking about.
Oh, y'all both in Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the nurse practitioner.
No.
Like she's excellent. Like, man.
I mean, yeah, but it's all like I don't ask the doctors to speak to anyone. Like I talk to my nurse, and it's nurses that I trust. That I'm like, hey, and I just so happen. I promise y'all, like I've had a great nurse this last visit. Like he was so great and just being caring. And the way that he cared for me, that it's something that was a calling for him because I was low-key losing it just a little bit But like he fought for me for everything that I needed, and it was great. Like, I always have to give credit where credit is due, because there are times we got to call them out, and times we got to let people know when there are some great people, nurses and doctors doing what they're supposed to be doing. The doctors that I had, mm, I've told a couple of y'all what happened this last time, but uh, my nurses, especially a couple of them. I have this one lady nurse; she was great as well. So I had to give them their props. Um, but I also want to give um, the comments a little bit of. Someone
Yeah.
had a question. Master, do you feel like reading the question and answering? It's right there on the screen.
I was saying, where are the questions that I don't really
Oh, you
like
don't
see
see
them on
it?
my screen. The screen, you
You
can
don't
read to
see it
the
on the
answers.
screen?
Okay, I'll read it to you. I'll read it to you. It
Mhm.
says, grief, depression, stress. How do you handle when your loved one was your inspiration?
That's a good one.
Um,
Yeah.
I probably don't be the person for this, but but so like recently, so like no, not real recent, but my homie, my like he was like my mentor. This dude was like my brother for real. Like his name Jay Thomas, and he part of the sickle cell community still. He
Okay.
was probably one of the biggest inspirations that I had. Like um, I had his picture still in my living room type stuff. So it's like I just view I just view it in like a different way. He not here physically, but when you spend enough time with a person, you pretty much know almost like what Jay would have said. Like I know, um, when you spend enough time with a person, when you talk to a person every day, for years, like I say, it's pretty much like you know. And then I still like I go and spend time with his mother and stuff like that. So I call her too. I'm able to call her too if I really needed some advice. Then there's people who was close to him that I can ask them what they would think, and if our conclusions like line up, then it'd be like, oh, okay, well that's it. So when that person is my inspiration, I just find a little bit of him in other people, you know, and then what I already have. So that's how I kind of like deal with it. It's not like I can bring them back, but um, the memories is there. It just turned into memories. It's kind of
Yeah.
it's pretty much my answers. That person turned into a bunch of memories that I've collected from him over the years, or.
I like the way you put that. Turn into memories. Well, grief is a cycle. It has stages to it, and it's okay to grieve over a loss. And so most people feel like when they're grieving that they shouldn't feel the way that they do. Sometimes we bargain, like why them, not me, kind of a thing. They were so great, this and that, and you just bargain. Sometimes you go into denial, like no, this didn't happen. This is not real. This is not happening. You want to deny it, and then sometimes you become angry. You get angry about. I was just talking to them, and now they gone. I don't understand this, and you get very angry about it. So you go through all these various emotions, and then one day you get that window of acceptance. You finally get to that stage of acceptance, and like Master said, once you become accepting of it, then you have a bunch of great memories, and you just want to remember that person in that light, how they were, how you remember them, and as long as you talk about them, they are alive within your heart and in your mind.
That's
You know,
another thing too. Like I post. I had Tony Davis. He was man, like he was my homie. Like I never met him, and it's crazy because the one day that he was at the airport that was close by, he was at the airport close by, whatever. Like, and when I told him that I would have came up there, it was just too far. I wouldn't have made it by the time it was for him to get back on the plane. But when he got off the plane, he went to the hospital and he never came back out of the hospital. Like that was it. So I still post like conversations. You can go up and you can look on my timeline. If you type my name and his name, you'll see that I still post conversations that he and I have had, but it's always like the funny conversations because he was a really funny person. You know what I mean? Like we both was like real a-holes towards each other, but it was our type of, that was our relationship. You know what I mean? So I always post certain things, and then I post Jay, and I let people know what Jay was to me too. So that's another way that a guy named Elijah Powell. I just was in the hospital. Took my daughter was in the emergency room yesterday, and I took a picture of him. He was on the billboard. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm gonna post him tomorrow. Like, so it's those things too. Like, and then like she said, the whole thought of I know that ain't none of them suffering no more. Like, I know that like to see a person right thin to see a person thin one day, and then you go to the emergency. I mean, not the emergency room. Then you go to the then to the hospital to visit them, right? And you see that this dude that was skinny is like a big guy now, based off all water. Like he done went up 3 sizes because he got a whole bunch of fluid on him. And then to see those types of things, I just know he ain't got to go through that no more. Saying so, those
that's,
things that I utilize to help me deal with it.
yeah, I can truly I can relate in ways just based off of losing my mom. I was really angry, like really angry. I had really bad anger issues. Like when I was growing up in school, I fought a lot. And it was just me, just based off just me being angry. And then after my dad died on top of it, oh, what? The anger level was astronomical. Okay. But I had to do something better with that. I had to let that go, and I had to, like Master said, think about the memories, think about the woman my parents would want me to grow up to be, and not the circumstances. It sucks given what happened, but I can't let that be the reason why I go to jail for like seriously injuring somebody or something like that. You know what I mean? So I had to place it. I had to find something to do with it. And I did. I let it influence and motivate me to be the best me I could be, especially as an advocate. Learn more, do more. Um, I give the fuel to myself, considering my mom didn't have the opportunity to do much of anything that she probably wanted to get done in her life. She died at 25. So I couldn't imagine at 25. I know I wasn't ready to go. I hadn't, I for what, go where. So I let that fuel me to do more, to help people, to have an open mind and an open heart, and to, you know, love those unconditionally, even when I have people get on my nerves too. But I realize life is short and you just gotta love people for who they are and let it be what it is sometimes. And give yourself grace and other people grace sometimes as well. But also, my daughter is a big inspiration. I've said it, this probably, I don't know how many times I've said it, especially today, but my daughter has saved my life. Just being, you know, dealing with this monster, you can get tired. You could get, worn out and worn down and feeling like, okay, enough, but I don't have the the room to say, oh, I'm done. Like I gotta stay here. I gotta treat myself better. I have to do what I need to do to be here for her as long as possible. So I don't have, you know, sometimes it gets rough, it gets tired, but that's when I just take a couple breaths. I deal with, I definitely pray. I read the Bible, but I call on those that love me back, those people that I know I can call to remind me who I am when I forget. So, I think we have one more question.
I wanted to say too. Also, go and live out what y'all talked about. If you ever, you had a friend or a loved one that was your inspiration, live out the things that you know they would have done. Like, um, yeah, live out who they were a little bit. Like I know that like my buddy Jay, he was a giver. He was a giver. He always gave. Like even when we went to like feed the homeless, he would always make it to the point where we understood. And when I say we, I'm talking about like he led a group of us. So he would always make sure like, oh yeah, well, just because we got sickle cell, it's people that's still worse than us, right? So
Mhm.
we go feed the homeless and stuff like that, or like me and him talked about like giving like coats and stuff to children or whatever, making sure like when the winter come, get coats to kids, things of that nature. So like I have coats and stuff upstairs in my in my closet for around that time, you know what I mean? So it's like live those things out. And then Tony, he always talked about his sister. Like he always talked about his sister. He was crazy about his sister. So um I did a picture of Tony and sent it to his sister. You know what I mean? Like, so I still try to live certain things out that I think would have that I one know that make their family happy and that I felt like would have made them happy.
Yeah, Master, you got to answer the next question. I can go ahead and read it. It says, do you feel the advocacy of love should continue? I believe they're talking about the loved one, should continue for the family of warriors who's now resting. If so, what measures of support do you share? And I think you made a good point to live out some of the stuff that they did. So, like, you're going to be donating coats. And also, I would suggest, come to a support group near you. I mean, some are virtual, like I do the Loma Linda support group, and it's virtual. And, we have all kinds of warriors and supporters and caregivers that are in this support group. And you have a platform where you can just talk about them, talk it up. I mean, we will support you, we will hold the space for you. And yes, you should also do things in their remembrance, like to continue to be an advocate for someone else, or just continue to be in sickle cell awareness and spread the word, about what the new technologies are. And like it does still exist, and, and like, they're doing research, so all sorts of things you could continue to do.
I he took care of his mother real tough. Like he really, like he really took care of his mother. Like so, it could be like some crazy stuff, right? He didn't drive, so 9 times out of 10, I'm the person driving. But we'll go we'll go somewhere, whatever, and his mother could want like some apple pies or something from a McDonald's that was in one particular area. We went to go get it from there. Like we went to go get it from there, even if we passed up two other McDonald's to go get it. Like we went to go there. He made sure that, like that she didn't do much and things like that. So like she stayed like 8 minutes away from me. So I call her, hey, I'm finna go to Walmart, you want something? Like stuff like that, or especially like in the wintertime, like Um, she like particular bottles of water, so I call her and say, "Hey, I'm finna go. You need anything from here or from there?" Or like, she like the gummy bears. I'll take a big bag of gummy bears. Like it's just those things that he would have done. I try to do as much as I can, like, and as much as she like. It's really up to her to allow. You know what I mean? Me to do certain things. So yeah.
Uh, um, Brian, do you have anything to add? Question.
In terms of what measures you can do to support, warriors who have passed on. Uh,
Yeah.
well, I think you guys have really kind of covered a lot of the things that you can really do to keep someone's memory alive and ensure that the family of that loved one um, you know is supported in ways, organize things around that person's memory. Like Master says, if do things that they loved, take those things that they loved. If they were an educator, you can organize a scholarship fund in their name. Things that benefit their community while also keeping their name alive. And I think anybody's family of a loved one who has passed on would um, you know jump on board to help something, help be a part of something like that that would keep their loved one's memory alive. As well as if they're in need of resources, whatever it is, however you can help out, lend a hand. If it is financial, then organize a GoFundMe for them. Do whatever is in your heart to do on that person's behalf. Whatever you can do within your means, within reason. Um, whatever's in your heart, do that. It's what I encourage anybody to do who's looking to support, someone's family who's passed on.
Okay.
Hey, Dorian didn't answer the first question. His video kept messing up. When y'all was asking the guys to speak about like the coping and things. So I was wondering what he would have said. I like when Dorian speak.
Yeah, apologies about that. I was having some connection issues
Yeah.
earlier. But
No,
what was
it's
the question?
fine. I done forgot the question. Master,
What was the question?
It's
It
about
was more
coping.
so like it was about coping. Yeah, like as
what
far as
what
what do
ways
you do to
do?
cope with.
Okay.
It was and what are your coping mechanisms? Have you been diagnosed, professionally with depression or PTSD or something like that? And if not, do you think maybe you have any of those type of conditions? I think that was the question.
Uh,
It was
Absolutely. I
how do you
mean,
feel with using your coping mechanisms and being judged for
Um.
them, which
I
causes more
think
stress.
that was an early, yeah. No, that's
That wasn't the initial
yeah.
question.
Um, but I think for Black men, in a lot of ways, we aren't encouraged to we aren't really encouraged to share our feelings. We aren't really encouraged to, um, really, say that we're hurting or that we're in need of something. We, from um, the time that we're children. I also think that's why so many black men, fall prey to the, you know, where it's easier to run than to, stand and face something. But I haven't been clinically diagnosed with depression. Um, and while I have sought therapy for what I know to probably be PTSD in some form or fashion, um, like I was speaking about earlier, in terms of the cycle that you can get trapped in terms of the depression, the stress feeds the depression feeds the pain feeds all of those other things, and you get trapped in that cycle. Um, I think because, very early on, because, those stigmas, oh, those are white people problems, we don't see therapists, that kind of stuff. um, I fell, prey to those ideas, and I did not get the help that I most certainly needed. In terms of very early on, getting access to the tools that would have given me the coping mechanisms, so that, halfway through college, I didn't have, a whammy of oh my God, I'm gonna have to live with this for the rest of my life. How do I deal with college? How do I deal with working a job? How do I deal with having a family? How do I deal with all of these things that, they tell you as a man, you're supposed to be the provider, be these things, be all of those things. uh, how do I do that while trying to live with this, while trying to cope with this? How can I be the kind of man that anybody needs me to be? But it took, eventually seeking therapy and finding the tools and reorganizing how I looked at this disease in my life, and its place, that ultimately, I think, gave me the tools to be able to help others find the tools to, go through that same process, hopefully a bit better and a bit easier than the way I had to go through it, in finding those tools. Because, you know, I was thinking, oh, well, I don't want anybody to know that I'm in therapy. I don't want anybody to think that I'm depressed. I don't want anybody to think I'm suicidal or something like that. And all the other things that your brain tells you about why you shouldn't seek help or counseling or therapy. I don't want a diagnosis. I don't want to be clinical, because people think that those carry stigmas. But you have to be willing to dispel the stigmas around those things, to say, I want to be the best me that I can be. And in order for me to be the best me that I can be, I have to overcome this first. I have to figure out where this fits into my life in a way that doesn't tear me down, but rather I can, go through that, realize, okay, that's just something I go through. It's a moment, it's temporary. And when I come out of it, I'm gonna just hit the ground running 100 times harder. You know, um, how can I reshape how I look at it in that way, so that it's not where that I'm not stressing about the next crisis before it even comes. I'm not putting, I'm not so worried and concerned about the pain that I bring the pain on. And that way I stop the cycle in its track before the cycle has a chance to get going. Before I get trapped in it, I stop it in its track. And finding those tools, I think, greatly involves seeking help. And if it involves, hey, you got a clinical diagnosis, that's fine. There are people out there with the exact same thing, dealing with the same things as you, maybe not in the exact same way, but there are people out there, who are experiencing this. And, um, you know, that's okay. And it has to be, you have to be okay with it being okay, and not worry about what, somebody else might say about you having PTSD, or about you being traumatized about the chronic illness that you are experiencing, that you are living with. Nobody else is living with it, so nobody else can speak to that but you. So it means you have to take the reins, because nobody can take those reins for you, and do that. So while no, I don't have the clinical diagnosis, I have dealt with that depression in a major way, and it comes and goes. It'll still happen, and it may happen from time to time, but I now have the tools to better cope with it when it does happen, because this is a lifelong thing. And finding those tools, I think, is the greatest thing that any sickle cell patient can do for themselves. Um, so yeah, I think there were several questions in there. I'm not sure if I actually hit all of them, but I think I covered most
No,
of them.
I
Very
think
good. I thought that was very good.
yeah, you covered everything
Yes.
pretty well.
Yeah.
I
Some
do
of
want
you.
to give.
I'm
I'm sorry. I just want to say this real quick, and then
sorry.
I want to give people there in Facebook, YouTube, the opportunity to ask your last questions, say your last comments that you would like us to talk about, because we're going to get ready to end in a couple of minutes. And anybody on the panel, if you have anything you want to add to or say, or a question you want to ask the panel while we're all here, now is the time. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in here that someone said, no one has power over you unless you give it. And that kind of coincides with what, um, gosh, I'm sorry, bad with names. Not Master, but Dylan, is it?
Dorian,
Dorian was
Orion.
saying in terms of you, that you have, is all up to you. So, and what you do with it. So, if we just remember that, we do have the power.
absolutely. Is there anyone else on the panel? Anything you want to add to or say before we go?
Well, just in terms of, I guess, just really quickly, I know we talked about grief and all of those things, and I just wanted to say that wherever you are in that process, whether it's the depression, the bargaining, the anger, whatever that is, it's time eventually heals it all. I lost my aunt, who was my inspiration, last month. She helped put me through Howard. She was, neither of my parents are artists, but I get the crafting and everything, and my artistry, everything came from her. And losing her was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to come to terms with, because she died so young. It wasn't like losing an elder where, it's like they lived this long, beautiful life and all of those things. She was just kind of ripped away from me. But I just wanted to say to anybody out there who may be grieving, going through that process, wherever you are in that line, the depression, the anger, whatever it is, it's your process, and nobody can tell you how to grieve.
Exactly.
How you do that is entirely up to you. But just know that time does make things better. And like Master said, you keep those memories alive by uh, you know by allowing them to be a part of you and to be a part of your life now. And I think that's where the acceptance part of everything that you were talking about really really comes in, where you can begin to accept that they can live on through me, and me keeping their memory alive. So just be encouraged, anybody out there who may be grieving or dealing with the loss of loved ones, because we as sickle cell patients constantly lose people, whether it's on Facebook friends, or just somebody we met at the conference. Constantly seeing people within the community drop like flies, so to speak, can take a huge toll on you mentally, whether you know it or not. So just be encouraged, everybody out there. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say on the grief thing.
Absolutely.
Grieving
Yeah.
is grieving is for the living. Is for us to come to term, because it is, death is a part of the life cycle. I mean, A lot of us don't like talking about it, but death is a part of the life cycle. We all are going to meet it one day, but it's all about how you want to live your quality of life, whether you have sickle cell or not, or something else. We have to make the choice and make better choices, to live out the life that we want to live. And when it comes to grieving others, it's for us who are living, so that what we can really examine ourselves in terms of, did we have did we have good character? Were we kind? How were we of service when they were alive? What kind of person do I want to be in terms of how I'm going to live my next few years, and how do I want to treat people? Because you don't want to have a lot of guilt, or you don't even want to have shame, because that can eat you up inside too, like regrets and all those type of things that you have, because I thought about them, but I didn't call, or I I was going to go see them. No one want to be left in those kinds of situations when someone passes away. But you can heal from all of that too, if that has happened to you. So you just have to forgive yourself and strive to do better next time.
Real quick, I'm actually still dealing with that Diamond Ray.
Yeah,
I was supposed to call him, and the next day he was gone. And I like the idea, of doing something in his honor. And today I'm now thinking about, maybe writing some poetry in his honor. You know,
yeah.
something I haven't done in a while, but it would be for him. But yeah, I
And there
get it.
you go.
Thank you
And
for
he'll
saying
know.
that.
Spirit is alive.
Yeah.
These people are not dead.
Same
I
same
feel
here,
him.
Trey.
Yeah.
Always with
I
you.
did.
Would you say,
I was
Dorian?
I was saying that with my aunt, it was much the same way. I had written her a letter, pretty much just saying thank you for everything she had like done for me in life, and I um I sent it to my mom to kind of just like edit it and like make sure that it was okay. She had cancer, but had beat the first one, and nobody really knew that it had come back. Nobody knew that except for my mom. But I never sent her that letter, and when she kind of was just like all of the second whammy came, it was just like what she's like gone. It was like a total shock to everybody. It ate me alive with guilt and remorse and with grief that I never sent that letter. And it took again it was still a process for me. I still deal with it. And I'm sure I'm going to be dealing with it for some time, but I am beginning the acceptance process of it happened, but she knows I loved her, just like I know Diamond knew that you loved him. Um, and that has been a big part of my healing process and helping me heal, knowing that I know she loved me, and that regardless of whether I sent that letter or not,
Mhm.
that she would know that no matter what. And I
And
think
that's all it is on the other side, is love.
absolutely.
It's not what we think in the physical. The other side, that's all it is. So yeah, she
Mhm.
loves you.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. I honestly, like, I think I was blessed, you know. Unfortunately, he called me to wish me happy birthday, but I was still the, you know, thing that I got to tell him and he got to tell me was, I love you. So that was like, although I did take it hard, and at first I tried. That's another coping way to cope with sickle cell and just emotions. I try to work out, so I started working out when after Diamond Ray passed, and ultimately, just the emotions and being overwhelmed by it, and trying to, you know, be there and get out there for his funeral and everything. It just overwhelmed me, and I got really sick. But all in all, I can truly say he definitely knows, you know. he definitely knows how I feel and I know how he feels, and that's an amazing feeling. You know, that's like I got to talk to my mother right before she died. I didn't know. I don't know if she knew that was the last phone call she was going to make, but I got to have a conversation and tell her I love you, and she got to say the same. Um, with my dad, that didn't happen, so I see the difference. You know, although I know he loves me, and I know he knew I loved him. It's just different when you get to kind of say the words, "Okay, talk to you later," or "Bye," or you know, because Diamond is he didn't say goodbye on the phone. He would say, you know, later, catch you later, you know. So those type of things. All right, I don't want to get emotional. I'm really trying. I don't know if y'all is like hearing
Ooh,
it in my throat, but
feel like I'm here. It's way too late.
That's
it's
okay.
getting there.
Real
Does
misty.
anyone have anything else to say? I think sorry, Carol Cobb Strickland. Say that
Caramba.
fast. She got your love on her wings. She got your heart on her wings. Oh, that's sweet. That was the last comment. I just wanted to give that shout out. Is there anything else anyone would like to say, share, give to the people? Any last nuggets? Because I feel like people who are watching and people who are going to go back and watch this can really pick a great gem from this talk. So I'm grateful to all of you for coming on and sharing your experiences, sharing your wisdom, sharing your emotions, and your, you know, everything with us tonight. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Welcome.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I don't think anyone else has anything else to say. So, with that
So,
being said,
Thanks, one.
yes,
peace
thank
out.
you for watching. Thank
Thank you
you
for
all.
having me, Shay.
Shay, don't forget your outro.
You already know. I have to give it to him. You know, it's been too long without, you know, me saying it. So I have to give it to him. Um, without further ado, there is no one else. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for joining. And as always, start where you are, use what you have, and do as you can. Until next time, folks, we're out. Peace.